Barack Obama is perhaps the strangest, least understood, most effective, and also most dangerous presidents that we have had in recent memory. There have been many efforts in the last couple of years to try to figure out Obama. The advantage of figuring him out, or trying to understand what motivates him, is that if you do that, you can not only make sense of what he has done, or even is doing, you can also accurately predict what he's going to do next. Now, since Obama has been in office, there have been a number of theories to try to account for him. And these theories spring from the intuition that Obama is different than, not only than other presidents, but really different than other Democrats. He's not coming out of the same cloth, you might say, as Jimmy Carter, or Dukakis, or John Kerry, or Bill Clinton. Something else is driving him. And I've heard a lot of theories about Obama. Of course, one may have been recently laid to rest that he's sort of he's an alien. He's not born in America. Well, here's another. He's a socialist. He's a Marxist. He's a Muslim. And all these theories are like sort of javelins that have been tossed at Obama, but if you'll notice, they haven't totally landed on him. They kind of bounced off or just sort of grazed him, because I think there's something missing there. And what I'd like to do this afternoon is to try to tell you, to supply that missing piece of the puzzle. To try to understand what is Obama's goal. What's really driving this guy. One way to try to answer that question is to ask it this way: what is Obama's dream? Is it the American dream? No. Not really. In fact, Obama was asked about that. The American dream, by the way, is the dream of American exceptionalism, the idea that America is unique. And Obama has repudiated that. He was asked, do you believe in American exceptionalism? And basically he said no. We're not any more unique than the British or the Greeks. It's not the American dream, certainly not as the founders understood it. Well, is Obama's dream Martin Luther King's dream of the colorblind society? No. Obama's actually given a number of speeches on the topic, and he gave the famous speech in Philadelphia about race. He sometimes does cite Martin Luther King. In fact, his favorite quote from Martin Luther King is called this. He cites Martin Luther King about, quote, the fierce urgency of now. But all that Obama means by that is that we should all act right now to do what he wants. It has nothing to do with King's idea of the colorblind society. In fact, to my knowledge, Obama has never defended with any intensity or sincerity the notion of colorblindness. He never brought it up in the Philadelphia speech. It's not something that motivates him. So then we ask again, what is Obama's dream? And the nice thing about this, I think, is that we don't really have to speculate or guess, because Obama actually tells us. He answers his own question. And we can answer it ourselves by picking up his autobiography. It's right on the cover. Dreams from my father. Now, notice, as I noted in the video, it's not dreams of my father. Obama's not saying, here are my father's dreams. Dreams from my father means, here are the dreams that I, Obama, got from my dad. Now, who was his father? His father, it turns out, as a man, was deeply strange. He was a polygamist. He had 4 wives, 8 known kids. He was also a chronic alcoholic and a regular drunk driver, involved in, and I think, at least 6 major accidents. In one, he killed a man. In another, he hit his car so badly that he injured himself so much that his legs had to be cut off and were replaced by 2 iron rods. Incidentally, this did not inhibit his courtship style, because he married his 4th wife after that and had one more child, George Obama, Sr., as I say, an odd fellow and a strange choice to make your role model. The other interesting thing about Obama's father is that he was absent for most of Obama's life, leading some of my critics to say, how could Obama have been influenced by an absentee father? And by the way, no one would ask that question who read Obama's book. It is answered very dramatically. The image of Obama's father was cultivated in young Obama by his mother. She was his father's great admirer and disciple. This is Anne Obama, raised in Kansas, a kind of bohemian who rebelled against her parents and against her country. And she wanted to marry a kind of third world anti-American guy. And she found one, Barack Obama Sr. But before young Obama was 2 years old, the father dumped her and went off to Harvard. And so you think she'd learn a lesson, but no, she married another third world anti-American guy. This was an Indonesian fellow named Lolo Soetoro, who took Anne Obama and young Barack Obama to Indonesia. Here's something very interesting happened that's relevant to Obama's development, which is that this Lolo Soetoro, who had been, his family had been ruled by the Dutch, apparently his house had been burned down. He was an anti-colonial guy, but when they moved back to Indonesia, he began to become slowly more pro-American and anti-communist. And according to Obama, in his own book, his mom turned against him. And she began to attack her new husband and call him a traitor and a sellout. And she would tell young Obama, don't be like that guy. Be like your real dad. He was a true man. He never sold out his principles. And she packed up Obama and dispatched him to Hawaii at the age of 10. Now you'd think she'd go with him, but no, she remained in Indonesia, soon divorcing her second husband. And Obama often goes around saying, I was raised by a single mother. Not true. He was raised neither by his mother nor his father, at least from the age of 10. But Obama begins this lifelong quest to find the father who wasn't there. And it culminates, by the way, in a journey he takes to Africa, and he goes to his father's grave. In fact, he says he threw himself on the ground. He says, and I'm quoting him, through Africa's red soil I spoke to my father. And it's a little creepy. His father's been dead for 8 years. But he's sort of like trying to get him out of the grave. But he can't. And then Obama, this is really the pivotal moment of his development, Obama basically says, look, I know it. I can't get my dad, so I'm going to take his dream. I can do the next best thing. He was a flawed man, I now know. And I won't imitate him that way. But he was a flawed man who had great ideals. And I'm going to run with those ideals, and I'm going to see them through. And if you're a Freudian psychologist, you can say maybe this is the way Obama was trying to be worthy of his father's love. But nevertheless, Obama, by his own formulation, adopts his father's dream. So what is his father's dream? What is his father's ideology? Well, very simply, his father, who grew up in Kenya, when Kenya was fighting for independence from the British, his father was an anti-colonialist. This was a time when the Europeans, the British, the French, ruled a large part of the world. And the British ruled Kenya as they ruled my native country, India. And anti-colonialism, by the way, we don't think of it much in America, it is the most important political idea in the third world for the 20th century. I know it really well because anti-colonialism is what my dad believed and my grandfather and all my uncles and pretty much everybody I knew. And the idea of anti-colonialism, defended by many of the smartest people in Asia and Africa and South America and the Middle East, is really simple. The world is divided into two. There are the colonizers, or the oppressors, and there are the colonized, who are the victims. Who are the oppressors? Basically, it's the West. Used to be Europe, but now it's America. Why? Because the baton of leadership has passed from the British and the French to the United States. And the assumption of anti-colonialism is that the rich countries got rich by invading and occupying and looting the poor countries. and that within the rich countries there is, that even when colonialism officially ends, the British pick up and go home, economic exploitation continues. In other words, there are powerful banks, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, and this is the economic wing of colonialism, sometimes called neo-colonialism. And these guys remain within America and they exploit the poor in America and all over the world. So anti-colonialism is a strategy for setting the balance right. In other words, it's a strategy for taking America, which is seen as a rogue elephant stampeding around the world, invading and occupying poor countries like Iraq, like Afghanistan, to loot them and take their oil. So anti-colonialism says, let's stop that. Let's put the leash on the rogue elephant that is America. And second, within America, you've got the big bad corporations, and you've got the rich. And these are the evil people in America, and you have to use the power of the state to identify them and bring them down. Now, notice that I've actually said not a single word about President Obama. I'm talking about the beliefs of Barack Obama Sr. This is his ideology. And my theory, and it's a theory, is that Barack Obama, the son, has adopted his father's ideology. And you might say, well, what does like socialism have to do with this? And the answer is, socialism is relevant. It's part of anti-colonialism. Socialism is the domestic agenda of anti-colonialism. In fact, Barack Obama Sr., and I pointed this out both in my book on Obama and my Forbes article about Obama, his father wrote an article in 1965 in which he said that in any country where you've got these powerful forces of wealth, you have to use the power of the state to smash them. You do it by confiscating their land, but if you can't do that, then you need high tax rates. How high? He says, well, up to 100%. You might say, 100%? Is he nuts? You know, why would somebody who's a Harvard economist, or maybe because they're a Harvard economist, propose something so crazy as 100% confiscatory taxation? Well, it seems crazy, but when you plug in the anti-colonial assumption, it's not so crazy. What's the anti-colonial assumption? It's that wealth is obtained by theft. So, for example, if you get wealthy by coming to my house and taking all my furniture, what's the proper tax rate for you? 100%, because it's not your furniture. So the underlying assumption of anti-colonialism is that wealth isn't created, it's stolen. And it's perfectly okay to use the force of the state to extract it and confiscate it. Again, we're talking about the ideology of the father. And my hypothesis is that this is the guiding motivation of young Obama, and now President Obama. In fact, by the way, this theory has the beauty of explaining all the radical influences that Obama sought out all his life. People say, why did he hang out with the Alinsky people? Why was he buddies with Bill Ayers? Why did he go to the Church of Jeremiah Wright? Here's my answer. Because he didn't have his father, and he was looking for radical surrogates who would, in a sense, supply him with his father's ideology. He sought those people out all his life. He found them at Columbia, he found them at Harvard Law School. He sought them out because they resembled his father. Obama himself, in one of his books, I think The Audacity of Hope, he says, I looked at these men, Frank Marshall Davis, the communist in Hawaii, Jeremiah Wright, he says, I compared them to my dad, and I always found them to be not as good as the real thing. The father was like the standard. These were like the cheap imitations of the father. Now, how do we know if this theory is right? Well, the way we know if it's right is we take the ideology and we compare it to what President Obama has been actually doing in his years in office.